April 30th, 1975. The world watched as helicopters lifted off rooftops, people begged for escape, and a once mighty war came to an end. This was the fall of Saigon, the final chapter of the Vietnam War. For nearly 20 years, North and South Vietnam were locked in conflict. The United States backed South Vietnam to stop the spread of communism, while North Vietnam fought to reunify the country under communist rule. By the early 1970s, after years of devastating combat and mounting anti-war protests, the U.S. began to withdraw. In 1973, a peace agreement was signed in Paris, but the fighting never truly stopped. Without U.S. combat support, South Vietnam's military struggled. In March 1975, North Vietnamese forces launched a massive offensive. City after city fell: Hue, Da Nang, and finally the outskirts of Saigon, the capital. By late April, the South Vietnamese government was collapsing. The North was at the gates. As the enemy closed in, the U.S. launched Operation Frequent Wind, the largest helicopter evacuation in history. Thousands of Americans and South Vietnamese allies were airlifted from rooftops, especially the U.S. Embassy. People climbed fences, rushed the gates, desperate to escape the communist advance. Scenes of helicopters taking off from rooftops became symbols of the war's chaotic end. On April 30th, 1975, North Vietnamese tanks rolled into Saigon. The South Vietnamese president surrendered unconditionally. The war was over. Vietnam was reunited under communist rule. The capital was renamed Ho Chi Minh City, and South Vietnam ceased to exist. The fall of Saigon marked the end of America's longest war at the time. Over 58,000 Americans and millions of Vietnamese had died. Hundreds of thousands of refugees fled the country. Many resettled in the United States, and decades later the war still shapes U.S. foreign policy and Vietnam's identity. The fall of Saigon wasn't just the end of a war. It was the end of an era, a moment captured in chaos, courage, and consequence, and a reminder that not all wars end on the battlefield.